this story broke a little while ago, and shout out to our friends and colleagues over at Status Coup for breaking this story. This is also an environmental story here, and it has to do with Flint. Now, Jordan Cheriton and Jen Dyes and John, everyone over at Status Coup, they've been covering Flint very extensively. They've been going out there, and they got something in The Intercept because Michigan's the former Michigan governor is going to face some consequences here. Rick Snyder is hopefully going to be facing some consequences. And here's the headline here: how a flurry of suspicious phone calls set investigators on Rick Snyder's trail. So Rick Snyder knew about the Legionnaire's disease outbreak in Flint as early as October 2014. He was saying he didn't know about it. And then we all know what happened. They privatized Flint's water. It poisoned residents. They still don't have clean water in Flint. You wouldn't know that if you watch cable news because they don't report on it. But Flint still doesn't have clean water. Flint's not the only community that doesn't have clean water, by the way, because of an investigation done by Status Coup and other independent journalists. It looks like Rick Snyder and other people involved are hopefully going to be held accountable here. So this dropped last week. And, again, kudos to them for their tireless work on their story. Now, here's a fun little piece here. Getting back to social media and how Rolling Stone is a magazine and Rolling Stones are a band. This happened recently. So here's Jen's Twitter. They wanted to promote this because obviously the corporate media is still ignoring all this. So it's still up to them to get the word out. And, Jordan got to go on Michael Moore's podcast recently. So it is getting some coverage, but it's still largely being ignored by the corporate media. Jen tweeted this: just received the most baffling response from Twitter support Twitter ads in the world. My eyes literally wide, my jaw to the floor. More to come on this soon. All right, she's really leaving us hanging there. But here's what happened. They wanted to promote these tweets, right? They broke these stories. They wanted to promote tweets with this article. And here's what happened to them when they tried to promote the tweet. Here, I'll show you the photo here. Twitter wouldn't let them do it. They got a message. They tried to promote this tweet, promote this story. And it said, this account is ineligible to run Twitter ads due to a policy violation by one or more users. Any active campaigns have been paused. So they're trying to spread a story about clean water. And Twitter is saying this is a problem somehow. And they wouldn't let them promote these tweets.
And the tweets came from where?
Jen's account. Jen tried to promote her own tweets. Like she tried to, because you can like bump your tweets. Or I've never done it actually, but you can like promote a tweet. And then you basically pay to have it shown and stuff like that. She tried to do that. She tried to bump the tweet, so more people find out about this stuff. And it wouldn't let her. It said she had some.
Social media, when they block you, they don't really give you details about why. They're just like, nope, you're blocked.
Yeah, well, it's all. I mean, we all have to bow to the Bible of terms and services, which is vague and just and somehow we're supposed to just accept that those terms of services are more important than our free speech laws. Which I get that these companies, they are private companies. I understand that. No one's disputing that isn't the law. It is the law. But you know what? Sometimes technology passes up the law. And when social media becomes as dominant in our political conversations as it's become, they should follow the free speech laws of the United States. And when you're spreading a story about clean water and you're doing investigative journalism, you should be able to promote that tweet, which, by the way, they're paying to do. It's not like they're asking charity of Twitter. They're paying for that. And Twitter's still saying, no, they violated something. And they're still, and to my knowledge, they're still waiting on an explanation for this. I'd like to have Jordan or Jen on the show, later on as this thing evolves to get the full, to get the conclusion, which we don't know yet. We don't know the conclusion, but I'm really curious what Twitter will have to say to respond to this.
Ron, I was just my mind was kind of going in a little different direction and thinking, because I know you were doing work on making the internet a public utility, right?
Still trying.
What's that?
Still trying.
Yeah. And I wonder if, I'm sure there's there's all kinds of reasons why the powers that be don't want that to happen. But I wonder if partly one aspect of that could be because then, as a public governmental entity, they might be more bound to protecting the our constitutional right to freedom of speech. And I don't know. That was just kind of a vague thought. I don't know.
No, I mean it's yeah, I mean, and those connections are definitely there. I mean, municipal broadband and like kind of having your internet as a public utility, that kind of more goes up against the internet service providers than it does against like a platform like Twitter or like any other content hub.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, there are some connections there based on what you just said. But we're living in an era where like we don't have the types of laws that are ready to tackle this stuff yet. Like they just straight up don't exist. And the policies we do have, we need to have additional policies on top of it. We shouldn't repeal the stuff that we already have that is for the most part a very good thing, because people want to, interpret it a certain way and not actually see what the policy does. So, yeah, it's a weird era we're living in. It's a very weird era, but stuff like this is going to continue until you actually confront this stuff head on and greet it with the nuance it deserves, instead of just trying to, pick apart something that already exists and cherry picking what you're going after and not going after. And it's astonishing seeing elected officials just have no clue what the hell they're talking about most of the time. On both sides. It's Democrats and Republicans that do it, where it's like they talk on Section 230 or they talk on, online censorship, and they just have no clue what they're calling for. They have no clue what these policies actually do, yet they get to vote on these laws.
And my inclination, rather than waiting for some politician or, who's bought off by whatever private company or industry, is to use the power of our own consumer powers and try to implement boycotts and things. And when I see this stuff on Twitter or Facebook, it makes me so mad. And I want to say, fuck them all. Can I say fuck on your show?
Oh, yeah, of course. You can say whatever you want.
I want to say, fuck them all. We don't fucking need them. And there are different platforms. I'm not an expert on all the social media things. I hear signals coming around as the new WhatsApp and whatnot. But it just makes me want to just drop everything and go to a different social media platform, one that's right now at least still freedom of speech friendly. But then that opens up a whole new can of worms. I mean, they're just going to take over those, and I don't know. Anyway, and it's hard to wean ourselves off of Twitter. I mean, how are you going to get all your people over to another platform and all that? But I don't know. We're stuck. I think people are stuck between a rock and a hard place. But if push comes to shove, we could probably mobilize, some kind of pushback and say, look, you keep doing this, we're all going to leave. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things like there's always going to be a dominant social media platform. Like it's always going to exist. And there's always going to be, a platform where it's like it's not your favorite, but you're on it because it's necessary to disperse information. I think like those types of things are always going to be there. They're going to evolve and they're going to change. I mean, no one's talking about AIM or MySpace anymore, but I think it's always kind of going to be there. I kind of subscribe to like what Nicholas Carr wrote about in that book, The Shallows, where it's like the technology is always going to be there. So if you're just kind of trying to butt heads with the technology, that's just a battle you're not going to win. But the best thing to do is to try to figure out how to use the technology effectively and try to make it as democratic, for lack of a better word coming to my head, as absolute possible. And we're not really making much of an effort right now. So I firmly believe when I say we, I mean the collective we. I don't mean me and you, but I mean like, the people making the laws, the powerful. We're not really doing much of an effort right now, other than just saying, hey, Mark Zuckerberg, figure this out. You're qualified to tell us what is and isn't news, right? No, he's not. He's not. Neither are his Silicon Valley friends. As we pointed out earlier, some of them don't know the difference between Rolling Stone, the magazine, and Rolling Stones, the frickin' band. So, yeah, I mean, I think
one way would be to hold officials accountable and elect, but it takes a long time, elect people that will put this as, front and center, and then hold them accountable later to actually holding these companies accountable. That'll take many years, and I don't know who's going to be holding Facebook accountable and whatnot to this kind of stuff. But another way would be, maybe this is a good segue to what's Parler? Didn't they get taken down?
I don't know. I'm not familiar either. I'm not on it. I don't know much of anything about it, and I honestly haven't really followed that story. I know apparently they were banned from something as well, but I don't know.
Monopoly, Twitter, Facebook monsters kind of. I'm not. You're right. I'm not sure what happened with them too. But when there are these other avenues opening up, they're going to be taken down too. So that's why I bring up that example.
Well, you know what makes me so frustrated about this whole thing? Like you bring up like just politicians and elected officials who essentially do have to vote on these laws. And, like I said earlier, like a lot of them, I think for a lot of them, it's not even that they're not even being deceptive in this case. It's like they just honestly have no clue what the hell they're talking about. Like when you listen to Ted Cruz talk about Section 230, like it's just obvious he hasn't read it. It's obvious he has no clue what it actually does. Like he's just freaking clueless, and he's being quoted like in corporate media. And I think the biggest problem the thing that I find most annoying is all you have to do. You don't have to be a tech genius. You don't have to be a constitutional lawyer. You don't have to be any of those things. All you have to do is just ask the right questions of the right people and just freaking listen. And, this is the example I love to bring up. You know who had the best digital rights overall platform out of any of the 2020 candidates? Bernie Sanders, the 80-year-old. Do you think Bernie Sanders spends a lot of time on Reddit? And that's where he got all that stuff. He's like, I know I should ban facial recognition because of this subreddit I'm on all the time. I doubt he does any of that. But what he did in this case, he listened to the right frickin' people, and he formed a well-rounded policy perspective on these issues, on net neutrality, on municipal broadband. Bernie was the only one who had a high-speed internet for all bill. On facial recognition, Bernie was the only one that supported the ban, the only one. It's not because he's like Joe Hip when it comes to tech, I'm pretty sure. It's because he listens to the right people. He asks the right questions.
I like that when I was going door to door and I said, hey, what about net neutrality? Or, they loved it. And I'm like, well, Bernie's doing that.
Yeah. So it's like, it's not that hard. You just have to take a second and listen to the right people. And you know who the right people aren't? Cable companies. Those aren't the right people.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your